Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. A very warm welcome to all of you who are already here. I see more and more people joining, so we will give them a few seconds to come in and settle down. In the meantime, we can get started with some of the preliminary uh, items on the agenda. So today's webinar is part of our series, Organizing for Project Success by Humanizing Work. This is the third episode, which is the power of lean and visual project management. This is brought to you by Nimble Work, and where our mission is to humanize work uh, through a variety of capabilities that we support in our product, and in general the support of certain processes and frameworks that allow for teams to truly collaborate and succeed in projects. So let's get started with the agenda. So we'll start with some introductions, and then I will give you a quick introduction to Nimble Work for those of you who may not be very familiar with us. And then we get on to the main session on lean and visual project management. And hopefully we'll have a good Q&A session at the end, uh, where we get a chance to learn from your experience, your uh, uh, opinion on some of the topics that we discussed today. And hope we have a spirited discussion at that time. Just some housekeeping rules here. So we are going to record the webinar, and we'll make sure to send a copy of the recording to all of you after the webinar in a follow-up email. We will take questions. Please feel free to use the Q&A box to enter questions at any time. We'll take them at the end in the Q&A portion of the session. And again, like I said, hopefully have a good discussion as part of that. All right, so with that, let me introduce to you the two main speakers for today. My colleague Manoj Cherian is VP of Business Development at Nimble Work, and probably the most talented, most experienced person on uh, Nimble products and the overall portfolio. He has a vast amount of experience, both in terms of pre-sales as well as post-sales engagement with our customers, and really helping them understand what their current challenges are, and roll out solutions, work out configured solutions that really address some of the key business challenges that they face in terms of project delivery and work management. And as a result, we really have a good understanding of how organizations truly transform themselves as they implement a solution to manage their overall work delivery. My name is Mahesh Singh. I'm co-founder and I run marketing as well as consulting at Nimbleworks, sorry. Digite used to be our older name. We rebranded from Digite to Nimblework, and I still slip into the old habit. I've also been fortunate to work with some of our largest customers in the Western Hemisphere in terms of helping them implement lean agile solutions, as well as to, of course, implement our products. And as a result, really have learned a lot in terms of how implementation of some of these systems helps our customers. And it's not so much about our products, but it is more about the transformation they go through in terms of process, in terms of culture, in terms of people, and their overall skill-based change that helps them go through that transformation. So we're very excited to be here to talk to you about some of our experiences, which is really what we are getting to you in this series. So just a quick introduction to Nimble Work. We have been a pioneer in web-based solutions for project management, work management, product development, etc., for over 2 decades. We are headquartered here in Cupertino, California, which is in the Bay Area, which is where I'm based. Mano is based out of Bangalore in India. We have over 1 million users of our products around the world, and we have offices primarily in North America and India, but also in UK. And if you'd like to learn more about the company, you can certainly go to our website, nimblework.com, to learn more about us. And just a quick last slide, sorry, couple of slides actually. First one, to just give you a quick idea on the overall portfolio of products that we provide. So as you will see here, we have really a sort of end-to-end portfolio on running strategy to execution. So we provide for functionality like OKRs and portfolio management to really help you define and set up your strategy so that it's visible and available to all your stakeholders and your teams. And then we provide all the downstream capability from there, from waterfall to agile to hybrid execution of projects, and linking those two together so that stakeholders are able to see how objectives are being realized through strategic initiatives and projects, while project teams are able to understand the purpose of the work that they're asked to do, because they can see what OKRs, what objectives they have been aligned to in doing the project that they are working on. In addition, we have other specific capabilities like Retro for helping teams that are focused on continuous improvement run their retrospectives effectively. We have Swift Kanban, which is a very Kanban-oriented visual management tool, and we'll talk a little bit about the Kanban and visual management in today's session as well. So that's another key aspects of a key part of our overall product portfolio. And then just one last slide to give you an idea of who some of our customers are. And you'll see probably some very well-known brands here and some not so well-known brands. Here we have some of the largest customers that we have tens of thousands of users using our products across business units, across the enterprise, running all of their projects on our systems. And then we have also some very small teams using it for just their work that they do, whether it is in product management or product development or IT or marketing or HR or operations. We have a variety of different functions that use our products. So that is just a quick introduction to the company. Again, for those of you who may not be very familiar with it. But now let's get on to the more interesting topic, which is the power of lean and visual management. My own introduction to visual management came about, I would say, about 15 years back now, with the introduction to Kanban. So those of you, and again, today's session is not so much to do a deep dive into Lean and Kanban, but this is just a sort of quick introduction to why these principles are important, and therefore why we have implemented these in our products for them to be automatically available to customers who use our products. So in that context, I just want to give a little bit of an introduction. Again, for people who may or may not be, completely familiar with some of the principles. So, Kanban has been around now for more than 50, I would say at least 15 years, if not more, in terms of being used in knowledge work. And it came from the Japanese term, which really means a visual sign or a signboard or a billboard that is meant to indicate a capacity to work or a change in conditions. It was adopted in the Toyota production systems initially to indicate when a particular workstation was able to take on the next piece of work, or if they ran out of inventory and the inventory had to be replenished, they would put up a visual flag to say that they had a change of situation, and therefore they needed the next piece of production to come in, or inventory to be managed, etc. So Kanban system really is a visual system for managing work, and it is typically being managed through a sort of a workflow or a value stream. And that entire system, the entire workflow, along with all its visual cues, visual systems, is really your Kanban system. So that's sort of the basic visual system that you have. And yeah, so to take the next slide, which is really about why visual systems are important. Of course, a picture is worth 1,000 words. In the context of project management, you can say a picture is worth 1,000 tasks, and we'll show you how we sort of talk through some of these things. Going on to the next one. Again, this is, and we probably picked up some of the worst looking text-based systems. But the fact is that all of us are used to, and in fact, we are always surprised by how many teams are still using spreadsheets or spreadsheet-oriented systems to manage their work. And the fact is that all of us are very comfortable with, just putting together a task list and working with it. And it has its own, users. It has its own, ease of use and simplicity of work. No question about that. But when you work in the larger context of a team that may be distributed, or the larger context of an organization which has more complex structures and more complex projects, then these systems on these tools can start to get very limited very quickly. And so moving away from text-based systems to visual systems is, we believe, one of the core things that teams can do in order to improve their overall value delivery, overall work management, and project management. Just focusing on the first three principles of Kanban here, Kanban talks about the visualizing of your work and workflow. So putting up your process of working in a visual board, call it Kanban board or visual execution board or work boards. There are different names that different companies use. But visualizing it has a powerful impact on teams in terms of their ability to understand what is the work that's going on and where is it, what exactly is going on with that piece of work at any point in time. You can take our traditional system, like let's take a Gantt chart or I'm not sure that anybody uses PERT charts anymore or network diagrams. I think, but Gantt chart is certainly a very popular tool for project management. It's a very powerful, visual tool by itself. What it does, it tells you, it gives you a very good picture of two things. One is what is the status of the task in terms of having started and whether it is running on time or delayed, etc. And secondly, it gives you the dependency view if you have that built into the system. What it doesn't tell you is where in the overall value stream of that work, the workflow that, broadly different types of work follow, where in that workflow is that task, unless you build it into the task plan itself. So that is one of the key things that a Kanban board can impart to you. And if you have that as part of your, arsenal of tools that you use, it really helps understand the overall situation with the project, and gives a clear picture to the team as well as to stakeholders who are looking at it to understand where things are. The second key principle, of course, in Lean and Kanban is about how do you limit the amount of work that you do at any point in time and reduce multitasking so that you can improve flow. And this is, if this is something that you're not familiar with, then that is something that we can potentially cover in a lean and Kanban oriented system. But the whole principle of limiting work in progress at any point in time by implementing WIP limits and making sure that teams are not multitasking at any point in time. That is a clear sort of requirement for managing your flow. So that is the third principle, that once you've done this, you then actively manage flow to make sure that you maximize flow, maximize throughput in your systems, and achieve better cycle time performance, better throughput, better velocity, etc. And therefore help your overall project delivery. Going on to the next slide. So just to give you a quick example of what a visual system might look like, here is a screenshot from our Swift Kanban system, actually, that tells you how a value stream might look and what are some of the visual signals it can give you in terms of, WIP limits being violated, as you can see in the columns that are highlighted in red, or a critical defect still being tested, testing not yet being over. So potentially testing being a bottleneck, which might then lead to further issues. A key task, a critical task being held up in development, et cetera, et cetera. So not only does it tell you, that certain tasks are in progress, but it also tells you which stages of the value stream they might be having problems in, and therefore where to expect these problems to materialize, how to proactively then work to either change capacity and take action proactively, etc. So that's really what a Kanban system can do. Uh, this next slide tells you a little bit about flow and how do you really make sure that. So I'm going to give.
For the first time, Japanese researchers have conducted a real-life experiment that shows how some traffic jams appear for no apparent reason. They placed 22 vehicles on a single track and asked the drivers to cruise round at a constant speed of 30 kilometers an hour. At first, traffic moved smoothly, but soon the distance between cars started to vary, and vehicles clumped together at one point on the track. The jam spread backwards around the track like a shockwave at a rate of about 20 kilometers an hour. Real-life jams move backwards at about the same speed.
So I'm sorry, but the video probably didn't come across very well. It didn't come across to me, so you might have not seen the actual movement of cars and how the jam builds up. But yeah, but the link is there, and you might want to go take a look at it there. But what it shows you is that in a smooth flowing traffic, um, if drivers start to brake randomly, it has a ripple effect where people behind them start to also brake, and therefore the jam starts to move backwards in a traffic flowing in one direction, that the traffic jam seems tends to flow backwards at about, it says that 20 kilometers per hour. I'm not quite sure of the number, but this is really what this really talks about, is that how the reduction of flow, reduction of speed of certain items in a system can then hold up other items in the system. Um, Believe it or not, I think a couple of years back, for those of you who are in the US, you might remember a directive from the National Highway Safety Transportation Association, NHTSA as it's called, which gave an advice to drivers in the US, uh, partly to conserve fuel, partly to improve overall traffic flow. They advised drivers to not brake as frequently. And I thought that is amazing advice for, most of the time in other countries, you will see, drive slow, drive careful. Here was the advisory from the National Safety Organization saying, don't brake as much, because the braking has a dramatic impact on traffic flow and traffic jams and so forth. So that was a clear indication of this exact thing, that if you start to see variation in flow, you start to have a ripple effect on the entire system. And that's what Kanban talks about, that you improve and you optimize flow in order to get the maximum benefits of his system. Okay, next slide, please. So this is another thing about multitasking, and I think again there has been a lot of research done in the last probably 10 years or more, which talks about how the human brain is actually very poor at multitasking. What we believe to be multitasking is really just very high speed context switching, and by more context switching, we actually reduce focus on any one task, and as a result, produce poor quality in each of those different contexts that we are switching between. So as this thing says, the brain actually starts to become more stupid, and that is the exact words used by one of the researchers. But essentially, what it means is that you start to reduce focus on each and every task, and you produce bad outcomes, poor quality outcomes, because you're context switching so much. And that is one of the fundamental principles that Kanban talks about and Lean talk about, which is to reduce multitasking, reduce context switching, and improve the overall quality of work that your teams do. And of course, in a visual Kanban system, you can do that by implementing WIP limits that forces teams to say, this is the amount of capacity that I have in a particular workflow stage, and I'm not going to take any more work till I have capacity to do that. And it's amazing how just by these basic principles, you can actually get dramatic improvements in your cycle time and flow efficiency. Some of the terms that we will introduce you to in a bit. So ultimately, therefore, why do we, talk about Kanban? Kanban really helps you apply these principles of Lean, or the five pillars of Lean, very effectively. And that is why the use of these the use of visual management, the use of visual systems really helps you implement Lean in a way that you would on your own may not do it as well. So whether it is, visualizing the workflow, whether it is implementing pull and improving your overall flow, but then also helping you focus on improving it, because as you get these signals from the system, you are automatically motivated to, driven to focus on those improvement areas and say, why are these bottlenecks occurring? How do we take care of this bottleneck? And the more you do that, the more you improve continuously, the more you improve your overall value delivery. So that's sort of a quick primer on the visual management systems capabilities that any system should ideally have. And this is something that we have, over the last 15 years, really uh, it's become really ingrained in our own culture of how we manage our own work, product development, marketing, support, any kind of operation which can use this. But then also how our customers benefit from this through the use of our systems. Okay, let's keep going. So we'll introduce you here to some of the specific things that you can use, whether you use our systems or whether you use your own, a different set of tools and systems, how some of these visual and lean elements can help in different aspects of your overall project delivery. We'll talk about that, and we'll show you a little bit of what we have got so that you get a sense of how some of these can be implemented. And of course, the idea is to, introduce you to the nimble product capabilities as well. But the key thing is really to understand how these systems can truly help in terms of your lean and visual approach to work management and project management. So the very first one in that is where we implemented this is visual story mapping. So story mapping as a principle, as a process for breaking down your overall product scope and helping define user stories which follow the invest criteria of being small, independent, testable user stories. This is the key principle of any kind of an agile environment where you follow the Scrum environment, Scrum method in particular. Story mapping was introduced by Jeff Patton, and it has become a very popular tool, although not perhaps not as prevalent. I We see that perhaps 20 to 30% of our customers who implemented Agile actively use story mapping. It is one of the most powerful tools that you can use in terms of breaking down your overall task, or the scope of work, to truly understand how users will use your system or service, whatever you're building, understand the flow of usage of that service, and really break that down into how you're going to build it in terms of the buildable pieces, in terms of user stories, and how you're going to plan them. So the planning aspect of it in terms of the releases, in terms of the breakdown from themes to epics to user stories, as you can see here, building being built out on the slide itself. So story mapping is a very visual tool by itself, and in Nimble we provide a very visual capability for you to define the overall product backlog. Using that, you can do your release and sprint planning as well. Manoj, did you want to add something to what we do here in story mapping?
Yeah, so you had covered all the key points, but like we said, like you said, see, typically a customer gives a requirement, and a requirement is not a user story. So what we are helping you to do is break it down, take a requirement, and have a structured, logical manner in which it can be broken down. And then from the story mapping view itself, you will be able to see which stories are in the backlog, which stories have been assigned to multiple releases and sprints where its actual execution is taking place. So the whole life cycle basically gets covered in this module, and it happens in a visual manner, which basically helps the product owners, the customers, the relevant stakeholders to easily visualize and understand what is basically going to be done or delivered.
Perfect. All right. So next one is, and what we're doing is we're covering these capabilities in the life cycle of the project. So from initial planning to execution to monitoring of the project. So we're looking at it from that point of view. Okay. So let's get on to the next one, which is about visual agile estimation. So again, agile estimation is something that not a lot of tools provide within the tool itself. And what we have done is taken some of the principles of estimation using relative sizing that has been implemented again in a very visual interface, so that you clearly have a picture of how you can group user stories based on the relative sizes, and make sure that everybody is aware of what are the various um, pieces of work that fit into those different categories. So again, Mano, you may want to give a little introduction to this.
Yeah. So this is this is a very accurate and a very simple method that can be adopted for doing your estimation. It can be for any type of work item. It can be for an epic or a user story. What we basically do over here is the user stories which has been completed is recorded in the system, and when a new user story has been identified, you're able to tag it to a similar user story which has been worked on the terms of complexity and on the terms of size. And once you have done that tagging, you will easily be able to derive the estimate. So, like say, for example, if I have implemented a functionality, and if I'm implementing a new functionality which is similar to what has already been done, then I will be able to very easily determine that the likely estimate for me that is required to complete this work is what has been taken in the story that has been completed. So it basically helps you to compare with what work has been done, and then based on that, derive an accurate figure for estimate for the user story which you're going to work on.
And as a project manager, I truly sort of believe that that is that kind of capability is really important, because one of the things that you want to be able to use is your own organizational knowledge or your own team's knowledge to say, if we have done a bunch of these things in the past already, how can I easily reuse that knowledge to say, okay, here is how this new piece of work that we're going to take up, how it relates to what we have already done, what our capability is, and it really does that nicely. And as you can see here, once you have got that, you can also convert that into story points. Now, not everybody might be using story points. Some teams just use the t-shirt sizing and leave it at that. But if you do use story points, then it becomes an easy way for you to convert that to story points for your team's overall capability. All right.
All
So
right.
that
So,
brings,
so Mahesh,
yeah,
so let me just quickly
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
switch the context. We talked about two capabilities, and the most important aspect that we wanted to cover with regard to this capability is the visualization element that is available in this capability, which basically helps teams to work better and also understand what is basically happening. So
Mhm.
here, like I mentioned to you, customer gives you a requirement. It could be a very high level requirement. We provide an ability where it gets logged in the system. And once it has been logged, you will further be able to work on this requirement by breaking it down into smaller pieces. Like, say, for example, you can take the requirement and define it as a theme, and then you will be able to break it down to epics. You can break it down to epics on the basis of personas that are going to consume the service, so that your epic definition becomes more accurate, and it is also capable of delivering value to the persona who is going to consume that service. The epics can further be broken down to user stories. Now, these are independent, testable user stories, which can be picked up by the teams who are part of the project, and they can take them to execution. Now, we also provide a visualization where you will be able to see for this specific requirement which of the stories are in the backlog, and then some of the stories has been planned in the upcoming sprints and which sprints they are being planned. So this gives you an indication on when these user stories will be delivered and when you will be able to complete the delivery of this entire requirement which has been given to you by the customer. So like I said, it is what we have done in our visualization capability is we are not focusing on a specific industry. This is industry agnostic, so which means that any teams within an organization or any organization where you need to define your work and break it down to smaller units, you will basically be able to use this visualization paradigm. The other important capability over here is you will be able to involve all your stakeholders. So your product owners, your architects, your designers, your customers, the consumers of the service. So all of them can be involved, and they will be able to get a visual representation on how that requirement is going to be broken down to pieces and how it is going to be delivered to the customers. Now, once you have defined the user stories, the next important aspect of visualization is you're going to size the user stories, because once you size the user stories, then you will be able to align it to sprints where you may have a capacity constraint. So these are the user stories which has been completed. These are the user stories which are in your backlog. The ability which we provide is you can pick up a user story and compare it with a user story that has been completed. Now, say, for example, if I say that this user story is similar to this user story which has been completed, you just need to drop it to that queue. And when you drop it to that queue based on the estimates which you have provided, it will basically inherit that estimate. So it is a very simple, collaborative, visual way in which you will be able to easily estimate. And we have seen from our customers that since I'm relying on the fact that I've done a similar work in the past, the estimate which gets inherited by each of these work items is far more accurate. And that is what a lot of our customers have told us. And hence, it is being very widely used. You will also be able to, you know, expand the scope. Like say, for example, if there is a high level requirement, which is not yet broken down to user stories. So you will be able to compare it with high level epics, which you have completed in your project. And then at any point of time, you will be able to know what does it take to implement that requirement. So to implement that requirement, you may need 8 user stories or 2 features that needs to be developed. So these kind of insights are given wherein you will not only be able to understand the size, but you will also be able to understand what needs to be done to implement that specific requirement. Now, one key aspect in in a visual paradigm is once you break down your work, you estimate it, it forms a backlog. Now, I have a limited capacity available. My team is, able to deliver only a specific capacity of work on a weekly basis. So, how do I prioritize my requirements and make sure that I am able to deliver maximum value to my customers? Like, say, for example, you will be able to see the percentage of work that has been completed across multiple parameters. Here, I've chosen the parameter of a module, and then you will see that okay, a lot of work has not happened on integration. Again, it is shown to you in a visual manner, and then you will also be able to focus what in integration I want to focus on. So you can say that okay, giving an improvement on the UI is what is going to deliver maximum value to my customers. So you can basically choose that and then go ahead and prioritize the stories which you want to pick it up in the upcoming sprints. You will be able to detail the user stories through a grooming process. Once it has been detailed, then you will also be able to look at the capacity that is available across multiple sprints that are running in your project, and then pick and choose those stories that can be fit into a particular sprint. Now, all of this is basically being done visually, and we also do provide a lot of visual representation, which will help teams to understand what is the kind of work that is getting delivered across sprints, what is the capacity available, and so on and so forth. So all of this is like Mahesh said, it is not textual in nature, it is visual in nature. And the moment it is visual in nature, you will be able to bring all the relevant stakeholders, collaborate, and quickly take decisions and move forward with your work. Yes, Mahesh.
All right. Thanks, Mano. There's a question from Angela about when you were showing the story mapping, that are you using ChatGPT to create this board? Thanks for the question, Angela. So we're not using it yet. We're not there yet in terms of using LLMs in terms of generating the board design by itself. But there is integration with LLMs for answering a bunch of questions, as well as providing some coaching guidance, etc. But what we do is that using AI and using the data that is captured in the system, we are able to provide, we are able to do similarity analysis and then make recommendations on what kind of things can be, compared to the new piece of information that's available to us. So it is part of our similarity and recommendation engine capabilities that are built into that. The actual board construction is still done based on the actual knowledge that people have in the team of what the workflow needs to be, or what the decomposition of the epic, the theme to epic to user story needs to be, and it follows a standard story mapping guideline, a story mapping structure. But thanks for the input, and thanks for the idea about that. If we have time, we might be able to show you the LLM integration. We actually have two types, but again, let me not digress too much into that for the time being. All right, so let's go on to the next part. So now, once you've sort of built your backlog, you've done the backlog refinement, how do you actually execute? Now, all of you, we've seen most of you come from a project management background, and you are all familiar with the standard tools of project management, whether it is, breaking down your work breakdown into and building a Gantt chart, or using other similar tools for planning. How do you then actually execute that work? So what we enable teams to do is that you might do your planning, maybe a high level plan, using your favorite tool, and most of the time it is a Gantt chart that we ourselves use Gantt charts, as and when needed. But then when you have to actually execute the work, then you build out your actual workflow, your actual value stream of how that work is going to be done. And that is something that you can manage on a visual board that you see here. Uh, so what you can actually do is define value streams or define workflows for different types of work. And you can build multiple, swim lanes to manage each of the types of work. And whether it is type of work, whether it is different teams doing different work, you can have various ways in which you can break down the way that you want to define the value streams. But we provide that visual capability for you to build the value stream as you need. And then once you start to build it out, and we'll show you a bigger picture of this when we go back to the system, then you can start to observe where are the bottlenecks, where are the constraints, what are the other visual cues that your system is giving you. Kanban systems call it actually information radiators. So a Kanban board really is a rich source of visual cues on where things might be a problem. And so even before you wait for a phase of a project to get over, you have a lot of information available throughout the project, throughout that phase, to know that things might be actually building up to go wrong. There might be bottlenecks building up that you need to address proactively, etc., etc. So we really help you do that through by providing by enabling you to build a really rich visual board that lets you define these multiple lanes and manage work visually. We'll show you that in a few minutes. The next thing that we do is, again, part of our visual or board management, is that we provide for portfolio management in a very visual hierarchical way. Now, again, we do have standard portfolio management, which is about financial planning of new initiatives and the approval process for those. But once you've got that, how do you actually make it available to people to see? So you can actually use the system that is being shown here. We may or may not be able to give you a complete look at it here. Is that we use the capability of portfolio Kanban to break down large themes or large programs or large strategic initiatives on a board into smaller projects and sub-projects, and then manage them automatically by having automatic progression of cards on the board to really help you understand how these strategic programs and projects are progressing based on the work that's being done at the lower level by individual teams working on those initiatives or on those projects. So you can imagine a hierarchy. There is no limit to the number of levels you might have on the hierarchy, but you can actually have let's say, strategic objectives that you define at the highermost level, breaking down to themes, breaking down to initiatives, and then onto epics, features, etc. Whichever way you define your own hierarchy, you can model it completely using a system like this, and then very visually track it to see how those objectives are being met because of the progress of stories at the lowermost level. Uh, and it might look complex, it might sound complex as I'm describing it, but it is all a matter of each level, whether it is stakeholders at the senior-most levels defining objectives, or whether it is program managers at the next level building those initiatives, or it is teams building out their own work. As long as the linking is done, which is very straightforward, you can provide that roll-up information as well as progress information very, very easily. So that's the second thing that we do, again, through a very visual interface. And the next one is about, so this is a really powerful capability. We'll probably show you a little bit of this as well. But because of the implementation of some of the underlying principles of Kanban, we're able to provide this agile program management capabilities that not only tell you how things are progressing currently, but it also gives you a prediction of when is it going to get completed on an ongoing basis. So at any point in time, for a particular set of user stories or features or new service items that you're building, it will give you a forecast of when it's going to get completed if you continue at the same pace right now. So, and it also then gives you a visual indicator of how to adjust your capacity so that you can meet your original deadline. This is all part of the agile program management capability, again, supported through the prediction and forecasting capabilities that a Kanban system provides. So we'll talk about that also a little bit. I don't know what the next slide was, Manu, on this, but yeah. So why don't you go ahead and show some of these capabilities here?
Yeah. So the capability that I just want to focus on is Each project team will be able to set up their own board. They will be able to set up their own value stream. As you can see here, it is configurable. Now, the way you set up the board will give you information in terms of how work is progressing. But more importantly, like say, for example, if I'm in the build team, I very clearly get to see which is the work I need to pull today for execution, because I'm able to see the user stories where the design has been completed and it is ready for development. So the concept of pull, the concept of tracking progress of work is very effectively facilitated through this visual system that we provide over here. Now, you can see details of each and every work that is there on the board. But what we also do is we do provide a lot of visual parameters or visual indicators, which can be used by the teams as to determine where they need to focus on, what is the type of work they need to prioritize at any point of time. So if you just look at this user story over here, you will see that there is a flag, which means that someone has identified a risk that needs to be considered, or something important has been flagged about this work. So that can be taken into consideration when it comes to prioritizing the work. You're able to see visually what is my percentage of work of completion. So that kind of gives you a sense whether we still need a lot of time to complete work on this particular user story or not. That gets derived from the system. We also provide you indicators which shows you that someone has given a comment on this card, so you can read it. It makes sure that you will not miss it. You're able to see the remaining work that is applicable for. So a lot of such indicators are being provided, which will basically help you, focus and prioritize on where, or which is the work the team needs to focus on at any point of time. What we also provide is some indicators over here. So you can see that it is in red over here and it is in green over here. So what this means is this user story is having a dependent work item. And because of the progress of the dependent work item, this specific user story is getting delayed. So you can basically get down to that dependent work item, which may be executed by your team or by a separate team. So you get to know that upfront visually, and then you can focus on that. And you're also able to see, like this card has been blocked. There is some issue, team is not able to progress on it. So a lot of such visual parameters are being provided, indicators are being provided, which is not available in a textual system, which will basically help the team to get connected and focus and prioritize, and also understand where help needs to be provided as far as work is concerned. Now, one key capability is the portfolio management capability that we have in the system. So you can set up your initiatives, you can have a value stream for its approval, and then once it goes to the development stage, you're able to track the percentage completion. And the percentage completion is going to be determined based on the percentage completion of the underlying epics or the underlying user stories which you have defined in the system. And you will get to see all of those details in a visual way. You can get it, view it in a list view manner. You will be able to view it in a hierarchical manner. So basically, what we are saying is there are views available which can be used by the portfolio owners. They don't have to, just get into the underlying system to understand where work is progressing. All of that is visually provided within the system.
Hey,
Now,
Mano,
as
I see a lot of badges against people. What are those? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we do have a methodology within our application where the work which a team member is delivering can be recognized. It can be thanked. It can be rewarded. So that we do have a cafe capability wherein which you will be able to appreciate your team members who have spent that extra effort to make a release happen or get a deliverable done on time for the customer. Now, so there are two aspects over here. One is you should be a person who appreciates other people's good work, and you should also be appreciated for the good work which you're delivering. Now, when that happens, we have an algorithm which runs in the system, which will then help you to, which will create a bronze, a silver, or a gold badge to indicate, high performing performers within your team. The concept over here is if a person is thanked and appreciated, then he is motivated, and if a team member is motivated, their productivity will be very high. And this is actually a challenge in the current ecosystem where P teams are geographically distributed. Some of them are working from home. You're not frequently meeting at office, or having that connect. But this system is basically helping you have that connect, and you're visually able to see the high performer teams within your organization. And finally, I'm just taking into account the time. The key capability which Mahesh talked about, that is the agile program management capability. So that is a capability that, see, at any point of time, I will be able to look at a sprint or a release, and I will be able to see, will I be able to complete the release or sprint on time? And the system will give you a prediction, which will say that you're not going to complete it by the time. If you are continuing in the current velocity of work, it is going to get delayed by you can see that this is going to get completed only by 27 July to 2025. The system will show you what is your current velocity. If you want to avoid this delay, what should be the velocity of the team, that will get calculated and shown over here. And if you're continuing in the current pace, it will also show you the cards which are going to get delayed. Now, if you want to understand why is this delay going to get is happening, then you can get into detailed analysis, and you will be able to see that wherever you're seeing this icon, it means that these are all scoped items where work has not yet started. So a lot of such visual views from a program management perspective is being provided, so that you will be able to see at a program level, is my release going to happen on time? If it is not going to happen on time, when it is likely to be completed, and what are the user stories that are likely to, that needs to be descoped or that needs to be picked up, so that you will be able to avoid the delay which the system is predicting. Coming quickly back to the slides, Mahesh.
All right. Let's go on to the last portion. I believe the last portion of our presentation today. We are going to be a little bit late. Um, so yeah, so again, continuing on the lean and visual theme, one of the key things that that lean and Kanban systems talk about is how do you improve cycle time? How do you improve the from the time that you take up and you commit to doing something, how long does it take for it to get delivered, right? This is the key expectation business users and customers will have, that once you have committed to them that yes, I'm going to work on this, how quickly does it get completed? So cycle time is of paramount importance to measurement of performance of teams. And what we do here is a key capability in the system, which is that for your overall value stream, you can define the thresholds that that card should take or work item should take to complete that stage of the work. And then against those thresholds, we provide you the information on how those cards or how different cards are doing in relation to that threshold. So you can set up your own thresholds based on past analysis of data and see what is the typical expected time across different columns of your workflow. And then as you can see here, you can see that based on the actual status of cards on those columns, they will tell you based on the threshold whether they are running on time, whether they are slightly delayed, or they are very much delayed. That the red, amber, green code tells you that. So this is another thing that a lot of our customers who have used Lean and Kanban, they love this capability because this really helps them monitor cycle time performance very easily and very well, because they're able to then again proactively take action as cards might start to get delayed wherever they are on an overall value stream. Okay, let's go to the next one. And this is really about how you can actually visually make different types of work that you do uh, very uniquely displayed, so that again people have a very clear picture of what is the kind of work they're doing, what are the key attributes of that work item. So one thing that we all tend to forget as managers and project managers is that most of our team members are not only working on project work, but also doing maybe some business as usual work, which is keeping the lights on in the business. So our ability to visualize the different types of work that we do is important, and how the system helps you uh, track those different types of work through a visual capability is also very important to a lot of teams. And so we let you really do that by designing each card type, each map to each type of work that you might do. Let's say user stories versus defects versus support tickets, whatever may be the kind of work that your team might be doing, and really help each of you understand what is the kind of capacity you have for each type of work, right? Or most of the time, we are all struggling for capacity, and one of the key things to remember is that our teams are supporting multiple initiatives, multiple efforts, and therefore, what is the real capacity available to them available to a particular project is important, and this lets you really do that very effectively. And the last part is, of course, now this is something that is interesting. We get a lot of very positive feedback on this capability. And this is about the ability to zoom out of your board and be able to get what I like to call a heat map view of the board. It really tells you, when you have a lot of work going on, it can, even in a visual system like a Kanban board, it can get difficult to track, where things are, where the problems might be. And the zoom capability helps you get a bird's eye view of the overall system and really figure out where are the hotspots, right? Where are the things getting blocked, etc. So while it is a very basic capability, we are always surprised by the amount of positive feedback we get, because I believe most systems don't provide something like this. Uh, that the ability to zoom out and be able to observe the system from a distance, and then be able to um, you know go into one particular area of the board and understand where the problem might be, is again a very critical visual capability that we provide.
Yeah.
So
So
in
quickly,
the interest,
just very quickly, Mahesh, I will
yeah, sure.
just wanted to uh, highlight some of the key capabilities. So let me just go to the execution board. So if you look at the execution board, like Mahesh mentioned, what you will be able to see over here is the distribution of work which the team is doing. So in this example, anything that is in yellow is a value it's a new requirement which the customer wants. Anything that is in red is something related to maintenance, and anything that is in blue is related to some technology related work. So you are able to see that is a team working. What is their work distribution? Are they working on work items that is delivering value to the customers, or are they working on some maintenance related work and things like that? So that is one important paradigm which we provide here, and it is configurable, and you will be able to view it across multiple parameters. The next important point that I quickly wanted to highlight to you is the capability on the card aging, which Mahesh talked about. So you can, at any point of time, you can see that, okay, from a cycle time perspective, all these cards are within the limit that you want, the goals that you have set up for the team. But if you look at here, you'll see a card which has crossed the average cycle time of a similar work. And hence you may want to focus on this, you may want to focus on this. So this gives you an indication whether you are delaying work, whether you are going to exceed the goals that has been set at a column level and across the value stream level. You will basically be able to view it and take appropriate decisions. Back to you, Mahesh.
All right. So let's get to the last part of the session today. Obviously, one of the big things that lean systems provide is, and any project management system should provide, is the measurement that you want to have in the system in order to really understand how your project is performing, how your teams are performing. And some of the key things that lean systems do is what we have highlighted here. This is obviously possible if you're using a flow-based system like a Kanban board, where you're able to then track some of the flow performance. And over the years, we have seen some of these metrics being used very, very effectively to understand your overall capacity to do work, understand the kind of improvements you've gone through over a period of time, and then really be able to take action in terms of further continuous improvement in your systems. So I just focus on a couple of them. The cumulative flow diagram, which is the green picture that comes up. This is the flow diagram that you're looking at. Really is a powerful and a composite picture of your overall system capability. It tells you, the steeper the slope, the faster your overall work delivery. It tells you what is the kind of performance you have on different stages of your value stream, and therefore which stages of the value stream might be causing delays in your overall delivery. And of course, it tells you for any given time range, it tells you what is the overall amount of work that you've been able to deliver as a team. So a very powerful picture that immediately tells you whether you are. The slope also tells you, are you improving or are you slowing down? Because as a downward slope, as you can see on the right side of the picture, right middle, shows you're slowing down, but then right at the end, it is again picking up. So you can see how your throughput might be improving as you came to the right side of that picture. So it also gives you all of that in a single picture, and of course you can then drill down to different levels. The other is the flow efficiency, which is a very not very well understood measure. If you see your Kanban boards and you see the typical flow that people build in, it is the handoffs from one stage to the next that have a inordinately significant impact on the overall cycle time performance of teams. When you finish design to development or dev to test or whatever be your own context, and working in a marketing team, you may be doing different types of reviews, etc. The time it takes for one stage to have finished the work and for the next one to pick it up and start working is counted as wait time. And that wait time across different workflows has a far higher impact on your cycle time performance than the actual time it takes to do the work, which is called work time. And so flow efficiency really is a ratio of your work time to the total cycle time, and it gives you a very powerful measure of how much how much time is being lost through wait stages in your overall value stream. So it's a powerful metric that really tells you where to focus on. Most of the time, when if you're seeing delays in our system, we encourage our teams to work longer, work more, or do more in a single in a unit amount of time. But the reality is that if you focused on how to reduce the handoffs, how to reduce the wait stages of your overall value stream, you'd get far higher improvement in efficiencies. So those are some of the things that we talk about. Blocker analysis is another very important Pareto analysis that we provide. If you are tracking the reasons for why work gets blocked, why work gets held up, if you can on a regular basis, and we give you that capability to track a reason code of why something got held up, whether it is that you got asked to work on something else, or whether something an important customer input came in and you had to stop doing what you were doing, or somebody had to go on vacation for whatever reason. All of those reasons can be tracked, and therefore you get a sort of very visual picture of why work is getting blocked and where you're losing time to different kinds of things. So these are some of the key metrics that we provide. And then finally, we have a very interesting and a very popular and very well used capability, which is our stand-up wizard, which again helps teams to conduct stand-ups very effectively in a short amount of time, and also helps you focus on the right things at any point in time. So maybe Mano, you have a few minutes left. You can give a quick look at the stand-up wizard.
Yeah. So one important aspect to understand over here is a project can have teams, and a project can also have ongoing releases or sprints. So you can get your stand-up wizard to track the way work is happening across your teams or across your sprint. So let me take an example of a sprint. So as you are able to see here, the first point is you will be able to see all the team members who are part of that specific sprint over here. And we also give you a timeline indicator over here, which basically makes sure that the team, when they are giving their inputs, it will be very short and concise. And if they're exceeding the time limit, the system will basically prompt it to them. So what happens is you will choose the first team member. In this case, it is Ava, and you will see the card she's working on, gives her update. Then you move on to the next team. She also shows the card she's working on, and she gives her update. and so on and so forth. So you can move, and then you will also be able to see for this particular sprint the cards that has been completed, but you can see that it is not progressing well because there are still a lot more work item for which development and testing has to be completed. So it basically gives you an indication, indicator where you will be able to see what has actually been achieved and what needs to be done so that you will be back on track. And all of this is available for teams and for sprints that are being executed within the system. Over to you, Mahesh.
All right. Thanks, Mano. So I think we have given you all a sort of quick overview of the various ways in which lean and visual principles help you really manage your work, plan your work, and then manage your work in a far more effective manner. And hopefully, done justice to the way that that these principles can actually benefit you uh, even in your regular process of working. One of the key things that we talk about is the notion of pragmatic agile, and again, many of you would be familiar with that. Is that you don't necessarily need to have a very disruptive, big transition from your current ways of working to a very different way of working. A lot of teams go through that when they're implementing agile and they're moving from a traditional waterfall way to a completely new way of working. By adopting some of these principles and tools in an incremental manner, you're able to transition to a far better, far more responsive way of working. And I think the visual and lean tools really help you do that. And which is one of the founding principles of Kanban, which is to evolve gradually, not to have a very disruptive, sudden change from where you are to something completely different, both in terms of organizational structure, in terms of the working process, in terms of the overall methods that you use for doing your work. So hopefully we've given you a good idea of that. So I think we are slightly over time, but I see there are a couple of questions that have already come in, and if there are other questions, I would love to take those up as well. But just to make sure that you have our contact information for those of you who might want to discuss some of these in more detail, we'd be happy to connect with you and answer those questions. So Mano, there are a couple of questions that I wanted to take up. One was them was about automation. That can we automate a certain amount of status updates and validation rules and things like that. I won't go through the question in detail, but I know that we have a lot of business rule capability that
Yeah,
allows
we
you
have an
to,
automation engine where a
right.
lot of these work-related, transition-related, progress-related automations can happen. It is configurable by the end user. So you would basically use that framework to create some of these automations.
Perfect. There's another question about so there's a question about uh, the badges that we showed. So the badges may demoralize other team members who may not have got those badges yet, and who may not get much appreciation because they are introverts or whatever be the case. How to address this issue? So I think that's a great question, and I think it's a question that is not necessarily tackled by a tool, but more by the team's management, by the team's own participation in this type of a discussion, and really build a culture of trust and transparency that helps everybody understand that as a team you're working as a team and as a unit, and therefore it is the team's performance that matters ultimately and not just an individual performance. So the fact that people are getting appreciated doesn't mean that others are not. At the same time, it should be seen as a powerful motivator to say, okay, how do we also step in? How do we help our team members make progress when they're stuck on the work that they're doing? The principle of swarming, as it is called, where if there is a blocker, everybody on the team can step in and say, okay, how can I help you, etc. So I mean, there are various ways. There are enough theories on motivation and so forth that can be applied. Certainly, the tool is just one and probably one of the lowest level capabilities that you would apply to such situation like that. But
And
anyway,
and
thanks.
and the important factor over here is every good work gets appreciated. It is not an outlier work that gets appreciated. Every good work done every day gets appreciated. And that's the culture which the tool wants to create. And once you do that, then you will see that most of the team members will be having some badge or some score tagged against them.
There's another question on is the lean and Kanban capability a separate functionality, or is it part of your main system? So, like I was saying earlier, we have certainly modules available that let you focus on a particular area if you want to. So, for example, if you are looking at purely managing in a lean and agile manner and don't do any kind of waterfall planning, you can use our agile capabilities as a standalone. But in general, the lean and visual principles that we talked about today and showed you, they're embedded throughout the system. So it is potentially possible for you to gradually start making a transition from, let's say, a fully traditional or waterfall method of working and use our waterfall capabilities, and then gradually shift to a more visual, more agile way of working simply by using some of the systems capability that we provide here. While of course making changes in your own processes, in your own teams, capabilities and skills and knowledge in terms of training and in terms of understanding the importance of those principles. So it is not just that you start to use the tool and you become agile. Obviously, that doesn't happen. Uh, but the principles are built into small, potentially insignificant looking features, but they start to help you leverage some of these principles underlying by just using those capabilities. So it is built in. Again, thank you for that question. Um, Mano, in terms of our own experience with customers using traditional or hybrid agile or agile, what is your experience in terms of our customers? Uh, I would say, broad experience. Are they more hybrid? Are they more traditional, or are they predominantly agile today? Where do you see our customer
So I
base?
would say they are more hybrid. Everyone wants to be predominantly agile, but certain nature of work or services which is being offered continues to require some kind of a traditional approach for its execution. So I would say that it is more leaning towards hybrid and then agile and then the traditional way. There are some industries, especially industries which are very mission critical, which still follows the traditional waterfall approach. But generally, what we have seen it is more leaning towards agile, so towards hybrid.
Okay, perfect. There are a couple of you who asked that question, and unfortunately, I have to say the answer is no. Is there a PDU code for this session? No, we don't have that. That is something that we are actually looking into, and working with the PMI as well to see how we can offer it for some of our more, I would say, more informational sessions that we do. But at this point, unfortunately, no, there is no PDU code that I can give you. But thank you for again bringing that up. So I think we are well over our time here today, folks. I'd like to thank you all so much for staying through the entire session, and hopefully you got value out of this. We Like I mentioned at the start of the session, we began our own journey into lean and visual methods of managing our projects and our product development about 15 years back. So it's been a long time for us, and it's sort of ingrained in our own culture and in terms of the way that we think about doing any kind of work, whether it is marketing, which as I told you, I run and we manage all of marketing through a Kanban board system. We do our sales through the same system. We do our product development through that, our support and services through that. So and of course, it's not just about us, it's about all of our customers that use these capabilities. And again, it is not so much about the tooling alone, but tooling certainly helps in terms of uh, implementing some of these capabilities and some of these practices into your own day-to-day work. And therefore, it certainly helps to have these capabilities in the system. Uh, so I hope that you got value out of today's session. If you'd like to talk to one of us about these things, you can connect with us here. Like I mentioned, we will share a copy of the recording of the session today in a follow-up email. And I hope that we see you in future sessions again as we continue this series. With that, I'd like to close it today. Have a great rest of the day, all of you. And Mano, thanks for a great show and tell session today. I really enjoyed it. And we will again do a couple of weeks later. We will again meet for the next session.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. Take care,
Bye.
everybody. Bye bye.